All right, well, even if Aussies can't afford to go to the doctor anymore, at least they won't have to go as often under this new budget measure.
6 million Australians are set to save money on prescription medicines, with the government to allow patients 2 months' supplies of drugs at a time.
Halving the cost of medication for illnesses like heart disease, cholesterol and hypertension, saving 6 million Australians $180 a year. It'll also mean fewer visits to the GP for repeat prescriptions.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who might be needing some hypertension medication after this announcement is head of the Australian Pharmacists Guild, Trent Toomey.
I had one young woman this morning in her 30s, single mum. She got her dad to put her house up as equity to buy her first pharmacy. She will be bankrupt. They just don't care, you know. This is supposed to be a government that cares.
Yeah, come on, Labor, why are you prioritising pensioners and people with chronic illnesses when you should be thinking of the real little guy? Well-off kids who got gifted pharmacies by their rich parents. Come on, Labor, pay attention. But don't worry, they haven't forgot about our armed forces doing it tough.
A $50,000 payday is looming for Defence Force personnel who choose to stay in their role.
The new $50,000 incentive to stay for 3 years, after a minimum of 4 years dependent on rank and role, and long service leave in line with the states.
Yes, and on behalf of all other short-term contractors and casuals, I say, what's long service leave? That sounds good. Can I get some of that? Peter Dutton also had a big whinge about how this government's increased the total tax intake.
Now, Labor has abandoned the Coalition's tax cap of 23.9%, and we believe that the tax cap should be restored. Compared to our last budget, over the next 5 years, the tax paid by Australians will increase by more than $300 billion.
Can these guys not do basic maths? It's like the Coalition are shocked they never had a budget surplus in 10 years, and at the same time, they had this completely arbitrary and self-imposed limit on how much money they could take in through taxes. Now, I'm no economist, but if you can't cover your debts, maybe you need more money coming in, you neoconservative dummies. Dutton also had a massive whinge about Labor raising taxes.
On the eve of Easter, Labor axed the former Coalition's low and middle income tax offset. They took a decision to discontinue this, which means an effective tax rise for 10 million Australians. They failed to mention it at all.
Hey, but newsflash, they didn't actually axe it. It was always intended to be a temporary response to the pandemic. Right, Scott Morrison, who introduced it?
What happens next year when Lamido ends for low and middle income earners?
One of the hallmarks of our economic response in this pandemic is we've always designed it carefully. It's been temporary in many occasions. And this measure is the same. You don't just spend money forever.
Geez, can you imagine Peter Dutton at the office birthday party? He'd eat all the cake and then say it's Anthony Albanese's fault for not ordering more cake after he'd eaten all the cake. But don't worry, they're not called the opposition for nothing. The Coalition did find one thing in the budget they'll definitely oppose.
Is there anything you oppose?
Yeah, there are. So, we've seen in this budget an extra 10,000 public servants in Canberra.
We don't need 10,000 more public servants in Canberra on top of the already 181,000 public servants.
Yes, they hate unnecessary public servants, but don't they love unnecessary outsourced consultants?
54,000 consultants, contractors and labour hire workers were employed by the former government in the last financial year, on top of the 144,000 directly employed public servants. They came with a price tag of $21 billion.
And instead of having people on revolving short-term contracts, we should make those jobs permanent, pay people decently, give them job security and save the taxpayer money instead of paying consultants.
Wow, shocking stuff there from Labor's Tanya Plibersek, almost sounding as if she's in favour of more secure work, which goes against the past decades of neoliberal casualisation that has essentially turned the modern workforce into a generation of insecure freelance contractors. But don't worry, industry and employers, we all know nothing's ever going to come of it.